This movie will look at the symbols that are used to make the multi-stamp objects. This is the final movie in the set of 5. What I have open here is the VAA stamp defaults file, and this is in a folder on your hard drive in the Vectorworks folder. I'll just show you where that is. Just switch to the Finder. This is the contents of the Vectorworks folder, and you can see here are the usual things that you see in the Vectorworks folder. In here is the libraries folder, and the organization of this is the same on Macintosh or Windows. If we expand the libraries folder, then in there is a folder called defaults, and this is where all the default content lives. And for this particular tool, you'll see here there's a folder called VAA Multistamp. So any Vectorworks files that you place in this folder will get that contain stamp objects. They'll get listed in the stamp tool pop-up menu. One thing to note here, if you work in an office that has a number of users and you want to have them all using the same set of stamps, you can store this file on the server and place an alias or shortcut from the server into this location so that everyone is just referring to the one stamp file. Alright, so let's go back to Vectorworks now, and we've looked at some of these stamps in the movies here. For example, the file name stamp, the date and time stamp, the 2D coordinate, and the door and window stamps. Let's take a look then at how these are set up. Let's start with just one of the simple stamps like the window ID stamp, and this is a symbol. You can see here it says 2D symbol, and that's the symbol name, is the symbol name that we've been seeing in the stamp dialog. If I double click this, and that's how I'll edit these symbols to show you how they work, but you can also edit them by looking at them in the VAA stamp defaults here, expanding the symbol plugin objects, and here they are. They're all listed. These are just symbol instances that I have placed. So one of these just represents a copy of one of these from the symbol library of this file. And I can edit them by either right-clicking in here and choosing Edit, or I can just double-click them in the drawing here, and that's what we'll do to edit them. So let's go ahead and double-click on this, and this is defined at 1 to 1. By that I mean, just zooming in there, that the layer scale that they're placed on is at 1 to 1. So you actually define this at its non-scaled size, and all we have here are two objects: a text object and the hexagon. That's all that's in it. It's very, very simple. The text object, to be identified as multi-stamp text, it has to contain the hash, then a number, and then hash, and this identifies it. So if your symbol has say 3 text fields, then they will be numbered #1 hash, #2 hash, and #3 hash. So let's exit that one. Just to clarify, the layer scale in this is at 1 to 1. So if we go to active layer scale, you'll see that it's at 1 to 1. So we actually define these at a non-scaled size. Let's look at this one here, for example. If I select, let's zoom in there a little bit. If I select the circle, you can see that the diameter of the circle is 12 millimeters. So that's the size it's going to be on your drawing, independent of the scale of the drawing, and the text is just there, the same as the other one. Let's look at say this one here. Let's double click that and zoom in, and here we've got a rectangle that has a 0.25 line weight. We've got the line through the middle here which has a 0.18 line weight, and we have two different text fields as described a moment ago. #1 hash and #2 hash is what it contains. I've also centered these, so you'll see that they have both a horizontal alignment and a vertical alignment set on center, so that when the text expands to fit a door or window number, it will expand from the center and be equally spaced within this bounding box or the rectangle. Same with this one, it's also on the center. So whatever font, size and style is set in here is how it will appear when you use the stamp in a drawing. This one here is slightly different. Let's double click on that and look at that one. Here we have a group. This doesn't have to be grouped. I've probably just grouped this for convenience, but if I ungroup it, you'll see that what we have here is the file name, which is just static text, and we have the text that the stamp tool is going to populate, and that's this one here, and it begins and ends with the hash as previously described. Now let's look at one of these ones over here that has a link to it and also has some locus points. And you remember in the previous movie I described what these locus points do. They define where the leader line can come from when you're inserting the object. Let's double click on this one and have a look at it. So you can see the initial insertion point is set on this top left hand corner. We have got a group in here. Let's double click on the group and see what's in the group. The group contains the 2D locus points that define where the leader line comes from. It contains two rectangles, and it contains the two blocks of text. These are left aligned, so the text is going to expand from the left when they are populated by the tool. Now this particular one is a scale dependent one, and this means that you have to use two different classes. This is how the Multistamp tool recognizes scale dependence when you have two different classes in the object. So all of the things that make up one version of the stamp, so in other words that's the two rectangles and the two text blocks, need to be in the Multistamp version 1. That's just off the screen there, but that's what it says, Multistamp version 1. The locus points, if you want to put them in, they have to be in a class called Multistamp Anchor Points, VAA Multistamp Anchor Points. Okay, just to clarify, that's VAA version 1 or version 2 if it's a scale dependent stamp. Otherwise the objects in the stamp can just be in the none class or whatever class you like. And if you're using anchor points, then the anchor points have to be in the VAA Multistamp Anchor Points class. Now behind this object are the other two objects, another group that defines the second version of the stamp, in other words the scale dependent part of the stamp. This is a group. Again, this one is in the VAA Multistamp version 2, and this literally just contains the two text fields. Each of those are also in the VAA Multistamp version 2 class. So what this basically means is that when the scale is over the designated number, I think it's 1 to 50, so if it's 1 to 100 or 1 to 200, this is what will display. When it's 1 to 50 or 1 to 20 or 1 to 10, then this is what is going to display. If you don't want a scale dependent stamp, then you don't have to worry about classing or anything like that, except if you are putting in the anchor points, and they still would have to go in the class. And normally the versions of the stamp will overlay one another, so they're in the same position. So you can see here that the location of the text in the version 1 of the Multistamp and the version 2 of the Multistamp are in exactly the same position. I'll just undo that and exit the symbol. Let's just take a look at one other one, say this one here. This has quite a few more text fields, but again it's a very simple object. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 text fields. It's got 3 blocks of static text, and it's got a couple of rectangles, 3 rectangles that make up the stamp. This is not a scale dependent stamp, and it's not one that is that contains any 2D locus points. So everything in this stamp is just in the none class. Most of your stamps will be just as simple as this, unless you want to go down the scale dependence route with your stamps. So that's basically it. I'll just have a quick look at this one here. Zooming in on this. Again, 3 text blocks and a 2D locus point. And by the way, if you look at, say, one of these door IDs, note the insertion point is right in the center of the object. If I'd place this geometry here, for example, then when you do the second click to insert this in the drawing, the second click would be in this point here, which doesn't really make sense for something like a door or window ID. So with these, it's best to have the stamp geometry centered on the insertion point of the symbol. Okay, so that's just about it.